families, creating a lifetime of memories. Sadly, some families are denied these important moments due to the sad practice of alienation. These are families divided.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Families Divided TV. Dealing with a former partner who was actively trying to erase your influence and possibly your presence from a child's life is painful and frustrating. There are no rules. When anger, high conflict, and instability of one parent escalates, target parents must do the work of two in preventing the escalating effects on children. Parents must create a new path and avoid past potholes that have escalated issues, which will enable one, if not both parents, to rest and reset. This is a really good episode, and Chris Turner has given us much information and encouragement. I hope you get a lot out of it. We're going to be right back with Chris Turner right after this important message.
Divorce and co-parenting are a major life interruption for families, especially the kids, but also for parents and grandparents. And it's even worse in blame-filled, high-conflict cases. When parents engage in alienation by turning the kids against the other parent or grandparents, kids suffer. They're denied the opportunity to build the 4 big skills necessary for future resilience. New Ways for Families online class can help. Parents learn to use our popular BIF and EAR skills to calm the conflict and stop the hostile emails and texts. And we even have a class for kids and parents to learn together. Research shows a 75% improvement in joint parental decision-making after this course is taken, plus overall improvements for kids' well-being. Don't wait to make this affordable investment in your children's future and improve your well-being too. Start learning new ways for your family today at conflictplaybook.com.
Thank you for joining. My name is Chris Turner, and I am a mediator in the greater Houston area. And I do almost all family conflict and family divorces and child custody issues, along with CPS cases. So I'm very familiar with people who are entrenched in high conflict and having a difficult time breaking away from that and setting a new standard for their new way of living post-divorce and post-separation. What I want to talk to you today is about setting a new track, right? Taking time to rest and reset, getting some distance, taking the emotion out of your interactions with your significant other or your ex, and doing what's best for your child. Put your child first and be the best person you can be. And so we're kind of phrasing this as setting a new track, setting down a new track. Not always easy for many, many people. It's important that you purposefully take the time to take care of yourself and to follow some basic rules for the sake of your child. Again, we're not talking about what's happened between you and the other parent, but specifically about what's best for your child. And keeping that as a focus is really difficult in times of high conflict, and it's very difficult with parents to stay focused on that and stay focused on their child, because parenting is forever. Despite the divorce or a breakup or remarriage, your role as the child's parent has not changed. That nucleus of you and the other parent and your child or children remains the same, and there's a commitment there until your child gets into adulthood and well past that. Parenting is forever, and every family is unique. Your marital status has changed, but your parenting status has not and will not. So it's important that during the processes of going through court cases, going through the processes of dealing with your other parent, that you are able to reset as needed. And you may have to reset yourself many times. Things may escalate, conflict may come up, issues may hit you, and it's important that you take the time to reset as needed, because there's still time. Do you see what's headed your way? If you're in a heavily contentious divorce or a heavily contentious litigation, You know that there's a lot of trauma coming your way. You know that there's a lot of cost, both emotionally and financially to you. And you need to be able to have some foresight and see what's ahead, because that collision is going to happen. Rarely does litigation make things easier and less stressful. The end result may be less stressful. The end result may go in your favor, and that is what you're waiting for. But going through that time is very difficult. So what needs to change, and what role do you play in that change? What role do you have in that? Because we know there's been enough damage in your family. And it's important that we focus on preparing for the future and not dwelling on the past. Children do best when their parents do well, and they set the tone for how well the children develop. I often make the analogy that this is like being a flight attendant, right? If you're on a plane, and even if the airbags have deployed, even if the oxygen has come down, if the flight attendant is calm and cool and collected, then the parents can be, and everyone around them in the plane can be. It's no different in a family. Your child takes cues from you. If you're calm and cool and collected around the other parent and keep it civil, your child will pick up on that and they will be much more relaxed. It reduces the anxiety. So just kind of think of that analogy when you're dealing with another parent. What the stewardess is able to do, or the flight attendant's able to do, is to take the emotion out of it and go back to the basics, go back to what needs to be done to preserve the integrity of the group she's with. Same in your family. You need to preserve that, because it does affect your child when you are having really contentious situations, whether you're stressed, whether the child has heard something or not. They can pick up on those tensions between the two of you many, many times. And what we hear from children in our work a lot of times in high conflict is that there's this light bulb moment when they realize that it's affecting them, even though they say it may not be. And many times it comes out in their sleep patterns. There's that light bulb moment where a child realizes, you know what, I get up a lot at night now, and I never used to. I'm not eating as well. Children tell us that they're stressed about their family, that they're less interested in their activities. They're continuing to do well. And we see that many times children pour themselves into their schoolwork and stay focused on reading and doing things to maintain the good child status they have. But their interest and their passion for those things just isn't the same. So they often say they're less interested in their activities. One child, when asked about the conflict in their family, drew a mouth with stitches across it, like they had no voice in the matter. They just had nothing to say or nothing that would be heard. Some children believe that they can't be involved in their preferred activities because one parent won't take me to the activity. One parent has signed up a child for an activity, and during the other parent's possessory time, the other person won't take it. It's not in the best interest of the child. It's not what's doing what's best for your child, but it's getting back at the other parent for making a decision maybe when they shouldn't have, or committing them to something on their time. So they have a difference in how well they can engage with their activities. One child drew a person leaning over a cliff and looking down like they were teetering on the verge of something really devastating. And some children tell us that they're not as interested in their friends anymore. They're not, they're engaged, they're there, but their heart is just not with it. Stress in your relationship with the ex does impact your child. So let's talk about how we can change things a little bit and make that choice to choose to go on a path, either a path that you're on right now, or choose a new path. Is the path that you're on best for your child? Is it focused on your child, or is it focused on the ex? And so in lots of high conflict times, you have to focus on the ex. You have to prove that you're a better parent. Try not to lose track of that when you're with your child. So litigation can run parallel. Unfortunately, all of us, because of the stress and the amount of time it takes in litigation, or in a high conflict situation without even litigation, it eats your lunch and you really have a hard time focusing on the things that are important, and nothing more important than your child. So are you going to continue on the path, or are you going to choose to stop and change your direction? off of that path that might hurt your child or have a negative impact on your child, and create a new road that you want to travel on. What would that look like? How could that be best for your child? Let's talk about some key things. To prevent further damage to your child, and we know that all children are impacted when parents don't get along. The level of impact is up to you and up to that other parent. Is it possible to let go of all that past, to let go of all those past hurts, to focus on the future? And here's a really hard one. Stop tallying the wins and losses over who got a better deal and labeling. Often we know that maybe perhaps our ex or the other parent has a mental illness or struggles with depression or bipolar or some other malady. And we tend to always throw that up, right? We always tend to make that the full inference. Oh, well, that other parent's doing this because they're bipolar. We know that they have issues. You know, they have mental health issues. Stop taking the tally of the wins and labeling that other parent. That's something that you can do for your child. Reset. Children need to learn to have relationships with both parents. They need to have relationship with both parents in terms of how they access, in that parent being defined as the parent and positively promoted by both parties, by both parents encouraging and valuing each other as parents. Again, not as a partner, not in a relationship, but valuing each other and encouraging each other in relationships with their child. It's important that imbalances are corrected, right? If there's been a disproportionate view about access, or perhaps someone has interfered with visitation and access, that needs to be repaired. And whether that's through reunification therapy or just by gaining more time with that parent and letting them have access, that needs to happen. So having a relationship with both parents, encouraging and valuing each other as parents, and damaging whatever relationships have been negatively affected. Many times we look at situations and we see different things. Our past history tells us, where the basis of that is, right? We may look at a picture and see a clown, and yet someone else sees something different in that picture. They may have a different perspective. They may look at it from a different point of view and see something totally different. Both valuable, both correct from that person's perspective. Relationships are no different. When we tend to look at those pictures again, sometimes if someone has noticed something that we haven't, we see it then very clearly. We've been exposed to a different perspective. So it's important to keep those perspectives in key, especially when it comes to the other parent. Perhaps you need new glasses. Perhaps you need to stop and just for a moment and reset your vision. Take a new look at that other parent. We've changed. We all change. And so we need to make sure that our child is the key point of focus, and that we're staying focused on what's best for them, and valuing the other parent and keeping the other parent involved and encouraged is important, whatever their level of ability to be encouraged and valued. So let's talk about some key points. Letting go is the first one. Letting go of past perspectives and being open to new things. There's been enough time, talent, and treasure in the battle. There certainly has. If you're in a high contested situation, relationship, if you had a bad divorce, if there was a high conflict or some previous bad ills going, it's important that we get past that. And that starts with you and your perspective of seeing things a little differently. It's a very hard thing to do. We're not saying forgive and forget, but we're saying it's a new day. Let's try, for our child's sake, to move forward and focus on that. If you have a hammer, you tend to see the world as a nail, right? We want to fix it. We want to look back and say, this is the way it's always been. This is the way it will continue to be. And so keep your perspective in mind and keep a fresh look on things and a new perspective and focusing currently. Are you able to see the other parent as others see them? Is it possible, just possible, that you're both better people apart than you were together? And you're better people when you're not stressed and under a high conflict than you were otherwise? Is it possible? Have you changed? Is it possible for the other parent that the other parent has changed too? I often have parents who say this parent dealt with this issue or this addiction in the past, and that's the way they're always going to be. And yet people change, right? They grow up, they get better. Sometimes they don't, but many times they do. So ask those questions. Are you seeing the other parent as others see them? Are you less toxic? Is your relationship less toxic? Is it possible that the other parent is less toxic as well? Again, not trying to look at pie in the sky, but seeing them realistically as others see them with the possibility that they may have changed. And who knows, maybe that change and you being able to see them differently may encourage them to change more. Refocus your vision on the child, doing what's best for that child. That's number 2. Keeping the focus of all interactions on the child. You're not in a relationship with them anymore. You're not dating them. You're not married to them. You're not living with them. And so stay focused on your child and keep that in focus. The third point is honestly decide if it's best for your child, whether you co-parent or parallel parent. And this is an important decision to make. And it may be that ebbs and flows. So with co-parenting, you have to set some great ground rules. Most people assume that co-parenting happens and that parties are getting along really, really well, and that that's the best thing to do is to try to co-parent, force them into that situation. One parent may not be able to do that yet. They may not be able to co-parent and they need to parallel parent. One parent may not have the opportunity at the time because they're going through another difficult time where they need some distance. And so it's really, really important to find out what's best for your child. Is it better for your child if you force the issue of co-parenting, or is it better to parallel parent? Is it better for your child, and are you putting the best foot forward, parallel parenting or co-parenting? That's what you need to look at when you're turning that. It's not about you and whether you get along with the other parent. It's about how it affects your child. So how will you communicate? Let's talk about the communication co-parenting. How do you communicate? Do you get along well? Are you able to have civil conversations with one another? Are you able to interact with them without a lot of hostility? Another part of co-parenting communication is being aware of your triggers, right? So there may be things that come up that other party may not be on the same page as you. They may not be as open to changing as you are. And so you need to focus on what your actions are and how it affects your child. Be aware of the triggers. They may throw things back at you that they know are going to get your goat. Just be aware of them and figure out how to deal with those without reacting negatively in front of your child. Perhaps you have a key word or phrase that you use, like, give me 5 to think about that, or just give me just a moment, or I'll have to let you know about that later. Or when you have a trigger that goes off, say perhaps they show up with a significant other and you find out that either that significant other is pregnant or they're getting married, and that may be a trigger for you, that they're moving on and you've had a hard time doing that. Figure out what you need to do. So have a set way that you deal with those things. Count to 5, take a deep breath. Is that co-parenting going to work at that time? If not, perhaps parallel parenting needs to be the option that you have, where you do what you're doing. You're not trying to coordinate with the other parent, but you're doing your parenting on your time, the way you do it, and they are doing their parenting on their time, the way they do it. Again, the impact on the child is better than trying to force the issue of getting along. So in parallel parenting, we're looking specifically at what does the court say? You know, what is the current ruling, and what is the focus of what you're doing? What decisions are making? What does the court say in terms of those decisions? Many times it's not by mutual agreement because you can't agree. So you're doing things on your own time that fit you. Can you follow the court order, or does it need to be changed? And who's monitoring in order to prevent damage? It's really important, if you're parallel parenting and you're still in a high contentious divorce, that you have someone like a parent facilitator or a parent case manager That's watching what's going on and taking some of the emotion out of your interactions and bringing it back to the child. So that case manager can be invaluable in setting the tone and communicating with everyone involved and making sure that the child is guarded from some of those interactions that might be negative between the parents. Understand when you can co-parent and when you can parallel parent. And sometimes that means involving when those triggers are there, when you're going through a difficult time, maybe in grief or you're mourning something in your life or in your relationship. That may be a time when you have to parallel parent. And there's nothing wrong with having those ebbs and flows. Perhaps you get along very well co-parenting, and then you find out that there's been a significant change in that other parent, and that sets you off. And so you have to parallel parent for a while. You can always come back to co-parenting. What is the impact on your child, and what is best for you at the time? It's a constant balance of resetting and taking care of your child first. Honor your role as parents is another rule that we use. Honor the role of the other parent. Things are not always going to be the same between your households. They weren't the same when you were together. The way that a man and a woman deal with children are very, very different. The way that they deal with life is very different. Their perspectives are different. In an intact home, those two come together and the child gets the balance of both types, right? A male perspective and a female perspective. That doesn't happen many times when we separate and when we have a divorce. So it's important that you honor that role as a parent. They're not going to do it the same way you do it, but it's going to be okay. And your child can learn from both of you. And there's a value in learning from both parents. But set a time to see if you can check in with each other. Honor that role as a parent by finding out what's going on in terms of life at home and activities and schooling that you can communicate. Pick a time that's set, or use a third-party monitor if you're not able to co-parent well, right? Are you using Our Family Wizard, and are you using it effectively to just talk about the issues of the child? Are you using a monitor like a parent facilitator that's helping you to do that? If you need that, and that's what's best for your child, take advantage of it. Avoid deference to your partners, your current partners that are different from the parents. Okay, so many times it's a trigger when someone's boyfriend, girlfriend, housekeeper picks up the child instead of the other parent. Honor your role as parents and do what you can to avoid deferring your responsibility to a third party to do. Make it a priority to be there and to show up for your child, and to make sure that that other parent knows that you value that and that you honor the same in them. At the very least, let them know the how and why of that has to happen. Not that it's none of your business why my girlfriend or why my new wife is picking up the child. Honor that role as parents first. And then if a secondary needs to come in, communicate that and let take its course. The last key point I want to talk to you about is taking care of yourself. We all go through very trying times, especially when we're in high conflict with another party, especially when we're in litigation. Take care of yourself, your body, mind, and soul. Are you becoming that version of yourself that they are saying you are? Are you becoming depressed? Are you drinking too much? Are you using substance that you shouldn't be using it? Are you taking time to calm yourself down? Are you taking care of yourself? Because if we don't take care of ourselves in the midst of all this crisis, in the midst of conflict, it tends to get the better of us and we end up degrading. And that is not good for your child. Make sure you take care of yourself, taking time to meditate, taking time to exercise, eating properly, putting in our body what is good for our bodies and keeping the others out of it, and making sure that we're taking care of our mind and our soul as well. Look at your interactions. Are you taking care of yourself in terms of interactions with other people? Are you able to de-escalate and start fresh each day? Are you well rested? Do you have friendships and connections outside of your house? Often this is very difficult because taking care of yourself means having a peer group, and that peer group was shared with your the other parent. And that is difficult. And many times that peer group has been cut right down the middle. It feels awkward to be with other couples when you're not part of a couple anymore, especially if that other parent was part of that couple. It feels kind of different. And so make sure that you're finding ways to create new friendships or reconnections. Perhaps, you were part of a Bible study or a group at church that got together as couples. Can you just meet with the guys? Can you just meet with the girls? Can you just have those friendships outside of that you're going to maintain without putting them in the middle as well? Again, not focusing on the other parent, focusing on yourself. What do you need to be the best person that you can be so that you're taking care of yourself for your child? Very important to do. Parenting behaviors, not marital status, determine children's adjustment and outcomes in adulthood. And that was reinforced by Bueller and Elwood and Stolberg and lots of people through the ages. The parenting behaviors, not their status, determine the child's adjustment. If parents are behaving badly, the child will pick up on it. There will be some stress. If parents are not behaving badly, a child's outcome in adulthood is very different. So create that new mindset. Commit to co-parent with the other parent, to commit to parent with the other parent, putting that child first. Commit to promoting the other parent to your child, having positive things to say, valuing them as a parent and valuing their relationship with your child, promoting that other parent, and you would hope that they would promote you as well. Commit to allowing children to love the other parent in whatever that way that looks like. Even parents who have severe mental illness are lovable. Even parents who have been through situations where they abuse their children still want to have a connection with them. And so it's important to allow that child to love the other parent and to not show negativity towards that other parent and that child's love towards the other parent. Commit to letting go of that shared history. It's a very big leap, but not bringing up the past and not saying that's the way it's always been, that's going to continue, that parent's always going to do things this way, they can't learn new ways. Let go of all of those past things and that shared history so that you can move forward. Commit to managing your anger and your hurt. It seeps out at the worst of times. We know that. It seeps out at work. It seeps out with relationships. It seeps out with our parents. It seeps out with your child. Your child knows you well. They know your reactions. They know your facial expressions. Manage your anger and your hurt. It's not saying don't ever show your child that, but show them a positive way of managing that. Commit to managing conflict with the other parent. What does that look like? Does that mean that you only do it through our family wizard by communicating very clearly and non-emotionally? It's amazing when you take the emotion out of conflict, there's very little left. There's facts left. There's no interpretation. There's no impersonation about it. There's no value judgment made. So commit to managing that conflict with the other parent by taking the emotion out of it and simply communicating about your child. Commit to redefining your new personal life path. What does that look like? Have you found new ways to take care of yourself? Commit to that. Commit to co-parenting. Commit to promoting the other parent to your child. Commit to allowing the child to love the other parent. Commit to letting go of marriage and shared history. Commit to managing your anger and hurt. Commit to managing conflict with the other parent. Commit to defining your new personal life path. All wonderful ways, but they all start with commit. You have to make a committed effort to change your ways. What's happened in the past can't go forward. What's happened in terms of your poor relationship is not good for your child. Commit to making those change and creating a new mindset. What would you like your child to know before that collision happens? They're not a party to it, but they're going to see the debris that results when the two of you collide in conflict. What would you like them to know before they meet? That you're trying your best, that you're doing everything you can. It's important to stay focused on that. It's important to know what your legacy as a parent is. What do you want to leave your child? What is the parenting legacy that you want them to remember? What kind of a parent you were? One that was always in crisis? One that was always in conflict? They don't want to be parents because their parents got along so badly? Think about that. What is the parenting legacy you want to leave your child? And commit to making a step forward to help that. The most important influence on a child is the character of its parents rather than this or that single thing. Eric Fromm said that in 1973, and it's still true. The most important influence on a child is the character of its parents rather than this or that single event. Take care of yourself, reset many times if you need to. Watch your reactions with the other parent. Putting your child first will keep everything in balance in terms of what that reset looks like. May have to do it several times, but take time, rest, take care of yourself, and reset so that your child is the central focus of the interactions with that other parent, which can only be positive for your child. Thank you.